It is a rather wet road on a very blustery day for race 2 of the weekend in Clio Cup Series. We are here at Zandvoort and we are by the Dutch seaside, and the cars are on the grid ready to go for a start that will be behind the safety car. Today, even though there's a bit of a break in the cloud and it doesn't look too bad, we've had rain, we've had hail, we've had sunshine, it is bitterly cold, and earlier races, qualifying sessions, falling victim to safety cars and red flags. That's why the timetable's a little bit delayed, and the race director has decided to start the race behind a safety car, just so that the drivers get a little bit more opportunity to feel the circuit really before they are released. Clio Cup Series was won yesterday, even though he retired from the race, by David Pouget. He was pitching for the race lead, made contact with another car, had a puncture, and that was him out of the race. This is Nicolas Milon, who is on pole position. He is the only other driver who could mathematically catch Pouget in the overall, if you like, super title race. But even if he were to catch, he could only equal on points, and on the tie-break, Pouget would have more wins. So Pouget is already champion. Milon starts on pole, and it is the reigning European champion, Anthony Gerardo, who is with him at the front of the grid. Now, the way that Clio Cup Series works, there is this all-embracing title of Clio Cup Series in which you score points, but then you can also register for different regional championships as well. There is a European, there is a mid-European, there's an Italian, there's a French and a Spanish as well. And that is Gabriele Torelli, who is the man to beat within the mid-European championship, of which this is the last round. He is that championship leader. His rival is Anthony Gerardo, but really it would need Torelli not to finish and Gerardo win the race for him to overhaul a 42-point deficit. Thomas Picard there, 4th on the grid, and he's been another rapid racer this year, having one of his better qualifying efforts as well. And then 5th on the grid is David Pouget, who was celebrating last night, even though, as I say, he retired from the race. He was the only person that took the fight to Torelli yesterday. Pouget runs his own team, GPA Racing, which is familiar not only in Clios, but also in the French GT series, in the European GT4 series as well. And that is number 4 of Julien Baziré, who is 6th on the grid, former Clio rally driver before he came into racing these cars. The bulk of the grid, we understand, have elected for Michelin wet tyres, apart from Knut-Erik Knudsen, who is betting on slicks. Now, he only got as far as turn 1 yesterday in his debut in the championship. We'll see how he goes, assuming he stays on, and the road, he hopes, dries and comes to him. 82 there to line up 7th on the grid is Jacopo Jimenez in one of the Essa Corsa entries, former kart racer. And the most spectacularly liveried car on the grid is this of Martin Kuhl, the Super Mario Brothers characters all down the side of it. And it survived yesterday's rigours without too many dents. And Martin Kuhl, with a big wave and a thumbs up, is ready to go. Grandstands are pretty busy here at Zandvoort. This car was a real disappointment yesterday, and again in qualifying this morning, in as much as Guillaume Maillot qualified 2nd for yesterday's race, but even though he got his nose in front for the lead on the run to the Tarzan hairpin at turn 1, never was able to go with the leader, fell back and back and back through the pack. And it was a rather disappointing end, ultimately, for Guillaume Maillot. He finished the race yesterday in 7th place. Andreas Stucki never got out of turn 1 because he was minding his own business when along came Knudsen, cannoned into the side of him. Stucki was stuck, and it took quite a long time to remove the car, so much so that although the safety car was deployed, the race was red flagged and suspended whilst the car was moved. Otherwise, the drivers would have had hardly any racing time at all. So with 2 minutes to go, the grid is starting to be cleared, and it will be a safety car start. In other words, the clock starts as soon as the safety car moves away, and it is a 25-minute plus 1 lap race. In the past, timed races have not been all that popular with drivers, in as much as when you're in a battle pack and you're trying to time your move to get the toe on the last lap, you don't know when it is. Sometimes it works for you, sometimes it works against, but the decision has been taken over the last few years to make it time plus a lap, so everybody knows when the last lap is underway. 15 seconds then before the safety car moves away from the line, and the grid will be clear, and then we will be in business. So we'll see whether it's going to be 1 lap or 2 behind the safety car to get tyre temperature up. But the championship, which will move on, Clio Cup Series that is, to Imola and then to Barcelona, starts its 2nd race of the weekend with Nicolas Milon in the lead then, ahead of Anthony Gerardo. Nicolas Milon, who is a multiple French champion, He's won the Spanish, he's won the European, and he runs a mean team as well. The grid is the order in which they depart the line. Nicolas Milon ahead of Anthony Girardot, ahead of Gabriele Torelli, Mid-Europe champion-elect, and Thomas Picard from David Pouget, and Julien Barzieret 6th. 7th, Jacopo Ximenez, and Martin Kuhl is 8th ahead of Guillaume Mayo and Andrzej Stucki, who rounds out the top 10. The brothers Schimpf next, with Alejandro ahead of Adrian, who is the Spanish championship leader. Then Benjamin Kova and Matthias Dahl, I should say, the Dane ahead of Quinto Stefana, and Jerzy Spinkovic, who's been a race winner this year, but a long way back. 16th on the grid ahead of Henrik Seibel, and then the rather brave on slicks, Knut Erik Knudsen. Next up, Damiano Puccetti and Mariano Alonso. Then you have a driver that caused the red flag and lost his best lap time, Eduardo Miranda Cordoba, and Leonel Vigue next ahead of Michel Fay and Gabriel Alonso. The grid completed by René Steenmitz and Stefan Polderman, two Dutch drivers who are in the racers competition for the gentleman driver, if you like, the older competitor. And then it is to complete the grid for LCB Racing, Udo Brunner. So that is the way that the order is, and only one lap behind the safety car. So at the end of this lap, we will be in business. And so the safety car brings the field down now towards the Hans Ernst Bocht, turns 11 and 12, and then Nicolas Milon will have the advantage, of course, because everybody will be lined up behind him rather than having cars alongside. Knut Erik Knudsen, bearing in mind he didn't get even as far as turn 2 yesterday, is particularly brave, I think, starting on slick tyres. He's been rapid in the Norwegian Citroën DS3 Championship, in which he's been a race winner. Coming across to Clio's, then we'll also see how Gabriele Torelli wants to go about taking a title, really, because as long as he stays on, he can even afford to sit on the back of his championship rival, Anthony Girardot. And there, the car's making the run now into turn 13, ready to get underway. Torelli number 12 then, Girardot number 1, the reigning Clio Cup Europe champion ahead of him, and multiple Clio title winner Nicolas Milon at the head of the queue, and he will lead them away as we go racing at Zandvoort. Green flag drops, and effectively it is 22 minutes change plus a lap now as we go racing. But of course, Girardot with the wheel tracks and Milon gets a tow, dives to the inside line and takes over the race lead. Milon gives him room. Up the inside as well comes Torelli. Girardot needs to win this race, and Nicolas Milon possibly there making life a touch easier for his customer to go through. He stays on the outside line, but he wants to try and slot in ahead of Torelli up towards turn 3. This is the banked Hugenholz-Bocht. You'll see cars go up low. Some will run up to the top of the banking. That's the better line. And Milon was one of those that dropped down low to try to fend off the challenge of Torelli. They're still side by side. Thomas Picard is 4th. David Pouget, the white car, is 5th, looking for a clear bit of real estate that he can attack. And Torelli up the curb, skips ahead of Nicolas Milon into 2nd place. But then he's got wheels on the dirt. It's all sideways. Can he hang on to a big slide? He buries his foot in it, drags it out the other side, and loses a place to Milon. But it could have been a lot worse. So that was a save of the day, I think, from Gabriele Torelli. He's still sideways, and he's still hurling the car around, so very brave stuff indeed. He's back on the inside of Milon for 2nd place, and he goes through. He finds a huge puddle on the inside there, so the water splash just slightly impedes the progress. Milon comes back at him on the outside, and all of this is playing into the hands of Anthony Girardot for the race lead. He's getting away. Torelli in the red and black colours 2nd there, the Castrol livery of Milon in 3rd. 4th, the orange car, Thomas Picard. David Pouget then now, number 15, the white car. He makes a move. Torelli to the inside, trying to defend from Milon, down towards the chicane. He's closing on Girardot, who gets all squirrely under braking. Pouget around the outside of the curb, hopping Thomas Picard, and he goes through. So Pouget now goes 4th, and Girardot is not really escaping, is he? Torelli is going to be in the wheel tracks, coming out of the Arie-Luijendijk Bocht, and will challenge, no doubt, on the run towards Tarzan. He might even challenge on the banking here. Looks side by side, he goes through. Gabriele Torelli, really feisty first lap of the race, and he's in the lead as they come to the end of it. Now, has he shot his bolt too soon, in as much as now into the slipstream will sit Girardot, so Torelli moves across, trying to break the tow. Girardot gives a tow to Milon, who in turn has got Pouget up behind him, and there's contact between the leaders. Girardot gets airborne, Torelli in the wall, and that could be the end of the championship hopes for Girardot. Most definitely could be the end of the race, because Torelli is off the road as well. Others go ploughing on at the end of the pit straight. So Gerardo is back into the race. I think I'm right in saying that Torelli survived it as well, but that all got a bit leery between the two of them. And there is Gabriele Torelli, their number 12. He is still going, and the car looks to have enough pace for him to be able to challenge Guillaume Mayo on the inside line there at turn 3. So he has survived it. Gerardo, I think, is the one that's got the damaged suspension. That car looking a bit crab-like, and it was the one that bounced itself up into the air. So out of all of that, it's going to be Nicolas Milon there in the race lead from David Pouget, from Thomas Picard. Small gap back to Julien Baziré in 4th place. And Torelli comes up to have a go at Jacopo Jimenez out of turn 7. There are the 3 race leaders. So it's got a rather French feel to it again now. Milon ahead of Pouget. And then it's Thomas Picard, the Czech driver, running in 3rd place. Out of turn 9 comes Nicolas Milon. And the incident between Gerardo and Torelli is going to be looked at after the race. Jimenez then goes through with the AST entry of Adrian Schimpf up alongside him there. Number 113, the turquoise and grey car of the Spanish championship leader. And he now accelerates down towards the Hans Ernst Bocht and moves through. So Schimpf gains a place. Torelli's all sideways ahead. And he hangs onto it, the car looking particularly battle-scarred. But he survives all of that and accelerates then now towards the Hans Ernst Bocht. This was the move. So have a look at Gerardo. He comes out of the draft. And Torelli did move across a little bit, but as he was braking on a wet road, maybe the car just snaked away from him slightly. Definite contact between the two. Both go off the road. And it's Gerardo who came off worse as Milon and Pouget go through. Side by side for the race lead, down towards Tarzan. On the inside is Milon, on the outside it is Pouget. More task wheel behind as Thomas Picard goes through. Interestingly enough, slicked not the way to go, seemingly, because Knut-Erik Knudsen is struggling in 26th place out of the 27 cars. Pouget is the new race leader. Milon on his tail and ready to make his move as they come now with his mirror flapping out of Hugenholz-Bocht, out of turns 3 and 4. Thomas Picard not staying with them, even though they've delayed themselves a bit by squabbling. Picard not being able to stay with the 2 French drivers, and it's Nicolas Milon then in 2nd, and David Pouget, the man that started 5th on the grid, now in the lead of the race. More battles still to resolve, including there for 6th place, Adrian Schimpf, who's got himself up past Torelli. So Gabriele Torelli's car is clearly not 100%, but he needs to finish and score points here. So he runs 6th, and Gerardo is struggling like he is last. A drive-through to car 12. So Gabriele Torelli is going to be given a drive-through. Now, we were told the incident between him and Gerardo was going to be investigated after the race. So is this a separate incident, or is that the penalty that's quickly been applied for the incident with Gerardo now? Either way, Torelli has to serve a drive-through. I think Gerardo effectively is out of the race because he's not yet come through at the end of the previous lap. So I think the suspension damage has stopped him as a curb-hopping Adrian Schimpf bounces into the chicane. Torelli will hopefully get the message when he comes across the line this time, and then bail for the pit lane, ultimately to serve that drive-through penalty. He could do with doing it sooner rather than later, because then the field will still be relatively bunched and he could gain some places back again. So Torelli seemingly is found to be the guilty party by moving across as Gerardo was committed. The leaders go by. Pouget to Milon now is 4/10 of a second. Picard runs 3rd, and there is Torelli on the very far side of the circuit this time around, making his way down to Tarzan. Hopefully he will have seen the board. That's Guillaume Mayo going straight on at the end of the straight. Gets the car through the gravel, back onto the road, but Guillaume Mayo loses 8th place, drops down the order accordingly. And Knut-Erik Knudsen is starting to pick up a little bit of pace, but he's still over 15 seconds a lap slower than the leaders. So the slick tyre, not the way to go, I'm afraid to say. Whether the road will dry sufficiently remains to be seen, but the danger is that when you get to that crossover point, you've lost so much time, there's just nothing you can do, and it won't be that the wets go off completely. There will be that crossover point where the wets are still working, even if not as well, so it's not like he's going to gain massive amount of time on the lap. So I think Knudsen has bet on the wrong colour here. So the fight you're looking at between Jacopo Jimenez and Andreas Stuckey is for 8th place. Stuckey in the white car, having a good run today. whereas he was eliminated at the first corner yesterday, and he makes his move there. Look, on the inside line, diving down towards turn 9. Finds that big puddle on the inside of the road, no way through. So with Anthony Gerardo out of the race, the rest of the pack battles down towards turn 11. Jerzy Spinkovic, number 125, also has made good progress. He's ahead of Andreas Stucki now, so that puts Spinkovic up into the top 10, having started 16th on the grid, so he's made reasonable progress over the first few laps of the race. There is Andreas Stucki. The car made Clio-shaped again on that right-hand side after being harpooned yesterday, but still quite a lot of water is being squeegeed out of the way as the Michelin tyres, the wet tyres for these cars, come up towards turn 13, and so the travails of Knut-Erik Knudsen continue. Drive through to car 12 for causing a collision, we understand, so it was for that incident. And over the timing line, Pouget and Milan, the gap is 0.8 of a second. Thomas Picard is third, then it's Cool ahead of Adrian Schimpf. Torelli still 6th, and he hasn't yet come in to serve the penalty, as there, big dive on the inside. Spinkovic goes ahead now of Jacopo Jimenez into 8th place, so Jerzy Spinkovic making good progress. He won the Middle East Clio Championship at the start of the year. The UAE Series runs in the winter months. It wasn't a massive entry, but the championship kick-started, and he came away with that title. And he's ahead of Stucki, of Jimenez and Mayo, who is the one that goes low in the orange and white livery at the back of the queue. And Guillaume Mayo not able to make that move coming out of the corner. So Jerzy Spinkovic now sets off in pursuit of Julien Bazire for 6th place, because Torelli, who is running 6th, is a notional 6th, bearing in mind that he's got this drive-through to serve. And one would hope that the team are waving vigorously to tell him to come in and do it, because if you don't, then the penalty might become even more draconian, and that would be very bad news. But with Gerardo out of the race, come what may, I think the championship, the Mid-Europe championship, therefore, is going to go the way of Gabriele Torelli, yesterday's race winner. So David Pouget celebrating his Clio Cup Series title that he won yesterday by clearing off into the distance now. Normally Nicolas Milan is able to stay with him. There they are, the race leaders. You can see still how wet it is at this part of the circuit as they splash out of the chicane. But Milan does not seem to have an answer to Pouget. David Pouget also leads the French championship, which has been on his radar for many, many seasons. It looks like it's going to be his season, not only with the European title, but the French as well. And it would be richly deserved, because David Pouget has worked so hard and traditionally loses out, not because of his own ability, but he doesn't have many teammates that are up there, whereas quite often you've had Nicolas Milan with lots of his customers all running at the front against Pouget, and they can work as a pack, whereas Pouget has been the lone wolf. But this year, it's come all good for him, seemingly, and he's now 7/10 ahead of Milan, as there is Torelli into the pit lane. So the message has gone through about the drive-through, and he comes. And that will drop him way down the order then. It's a long pit lane, of course, because you exit coming out of the Tarzan hairpin here, so the blend is there. You can see the white line just ending over the exit of turn 1. Guillaume Mayo, in the meantime, looking for a way past Jacopo Jimenez, bit of contact there as Benjamin Kova was roughed up slightly. That was by Matthias Dahl in number 112, the Danish driver in his own car, run by Dahl Racing. So there is Guillaume Mayo, who also runs his own team, like so many do on the grid. The GM Sport squad is Guillaume Mayo's team, and the clock has 11 minutes plus the regulation lap for this race still to run. So Guillaume Mayo accelerates up towards turn 8, thinks about a move on the inside, but Jacopo Jimenez has other ideas about all of that. Guillaume Mayo, who has been a very rapid Renault racer for a few seasons now, Peugeot champion in years past, a bit like David Pouget, in fact, before he saw the light and came to Renault's. And Mayo on the attack to try and find a way past Jacopo Jimenez once more, the former carter, now in his 3rd season of Clio racing. Jacopo Jimenez, and he hangs on to the place, keeps Mayo behind him for now at least. Guillaume Mayo gets a good exit coming out of turn 9. Trouble is, that's the outside line for turn 10, so he's got to fall back in behind, and going straight on is Andreas Stucki. Avoids the gravel, but comes back onto the circuit somewhat delayed and doesn't have the momentum to pick up pace instantly. So the next question at the end of the lap is going to be, where did Torelli drop to? And what that is going to do now for Gabriele Torelli in terms of a final finishing position. It's Pouget and Milan leading the way, and they are the drivers first and second in Clio Cup Europe, whereas others, of course, are scoring purely within Mid-Europe, in addition to Clio Cup Series overall. There is Guillaume Maillot once more to the outside line to try to find a way now up past Julien Baziret. So Maillot is making progress. Little by little, he's edging forward. So 7th and 8th they run now. Baziret ahead of Maillot. Jesse Spinkovic having cleared and passed. Adrian Schimpf is 5th. Martin Kuhl has had a rather understated run, but he's up into 4th place now, going very nicely from 8th on the grid. A bit lonely, no one to battle against, but Martin Kuhl having a good drive. And Gabriele Torelli 23rd when he came over the line. The last lap for Knudsen on his slicks was a 2:16. And the last lap of the leaders, 2:05. So still, he is struggling hugely. He's staying on the island, we'll give him credit for that, but he's a long, long way adrift of the race leaders and could even be in danger of being lapped by David Pouget before the very end of the race. There is Pouget in the lead, ahead of Nicolas Milan, and then Thomas Picard in 3rd spot. And a drama for Andreas Stucki, who's got it all wrong. Gets going again, but over at turn 9, Andreas Stucki falls down the order, as Guillaume Maillot now clears Julien Baziret and goes 7th. So on the exit of turn 9, he's made that move, and he's ahead as they come down that short straight then. Hard on the brakes at the end, and it's where people have gone straight on, just like that. Baziret brakes too late, doesn't get the grip, and has to take to the bypass. Across the gravel goes Alejandro Schimpf. And it's all kicking off around now as cars scrabble their way back onto the circuit. So, in fact, was that Schimpf or was that Kovac? Either way, one in the gravel. It was, I think I'm right in saying, Benjamin Kovac, who was the one that was off. Apologies to the Schimpfs, who survive it all. So, at the end of the lap, David Pouget still clear. And the margin that he's got now is 9/10 of a second over Nicolas Milan. In 3rd place, Thomas Picard. In 4th is Martin Kuhl. And a replay here of Julien Baziret and Guillaume Maillot. And this was the move for position. Maillot through on the inside. Baziret gave him lots of room. And Andreas Stucki, while all that was going on, put himself up onto the curb, lost the back of it. And as a consequence, drops to 16th place now. So the race with just now under 7 minutes to go. In the Inter-Nissan Schimpf competition, it is at the moment Alejandro chasing after Adrian. So Alejandro Schimpf was the one that I think got caught up, fell back. You can see the driver still pushing on and the car's squirming underneath them. Matthias Dahl goes through number 112 in 12th place. But David Pouget looks like he's done enough to hang on to this. Great racing behind, but Pouget and Milan showing their experience. Of course, these cars always work really well at places like Paul Ricard, where there are lots of long straights so they can tow and slipstream and so forth. They have that opportunity here on the pit straight, but the rest of the lap rather more technical. That said, plenty of good racing has been seen up and down the order thus far. And Torelli, after his drive-through, struggling to come back from 23rd place, but I think on this next lap he will make some progress because he is closing onto the traffic. So Pouget it is up front from Nicolas Milan, from Thomas Picard, and then Martin Kuhl next in the queue as the field comes out of the chicane. Now, further back, Andreas Stucki there, just ahead of Henrik Seibel, so 16th and 17th. Stucki in the white and black colours. The orange car run by Thomas Picard's team is that of Henrik Seibel. And a replay of, in super slow-mo, René Steenmetz getting all sideways. And look in the background, Henrik Seibel completely sideways, bounces over the curb, up onto 2 wheels, crash lands back to earth, and survives the experience. And it looks so much more dramatic in super slow motion. That's a great camera shot. So David Pouget leading the way from Nicolas Milan, and Thomas Picard thinking how do I stop these two? Because he just does not have the pace to come back at them. And even when they were arguing over the race lead, he still couldn't stay with them. So Picard best of the rest. In turn, he's keeping Martin Kuhl at bay by about 2 seconds. And 5 minutes plus a lap effectively now remains in this second Clio Cup Series race of the weekend here. Championship set to embrace a facelifted car for these 1400cc turbocharged pocket rockets for next year. 6-speed gearboxes, Michelin tyres, serious little touring cars, but they deliver good racing. And Thomas Picard then, third in class at the moment for Clio Cup Europe. And he turns his way out of turn 9, chasing after the pack ahead. In terms of the drivers that are registered for points, though, in the Mid-Europe contest, he is ahead, so he's on for a notional race win by being the best of the scorers registered for Clio Cup Mid-Europe. As further back you'll see there number 69, which is Quinto Stefano, and he's another class leader, leading the racers class for the older drivers, and he's on the back of Jacopo Ximenez, the sort of gentleman drivers category, renamed racers last year. And Quinto Stefano, another rapid driver, accelerating then on the tail of Ximenez, who's at the other end of the age spectrum, only recently out of karts. But Quinto Stefano, 64 years of age, to the inside line, looks for a way by in this car run by Nicolas Milon's team. Interesting that one of the Italians should go to a French operation, but that gives you an idea of how good a team Nicolas Milon's is. Out of that really steep banking, they come at the Harry Line box, and now over the line. Stefano in the wheel tracks, looking to try to make a move as they come by, but I think he's quite close enough. 3 more minutes are on the clock then as they dive down through the hairpin. Julien Bazire under attack coming out of Tarzan, and that means now that as the two of them run side by side, up the inside line goes 199 of Alejandro Schimpf. So that is the battle going on for position, and it is Alejandro Schimpf that's moved through into the top 10 as a consequence of all of that. So Alejandro Schimpf goes by, nose to tail out of the Slottermacher Bocht, up now towards Schrijflach they go, and Julien Bazire further back, dropping down the order. This is the Ximenez and Stefano moment. Off he goes. Quinto Stefano runs out of road, finds the grass, finds the gravel, lets the car float, doesn't fight it for fear of getting himself in more strife, but what he will do is be caught and passed by Alejandro Schimpf, who goes through on the inside line there. So Schimpf takes the place away. Alejandro Schimpf then, he'd already got past Julien Bazire, so now he's 9th overall, Alejandro Schimpf, working his way through the order, going nicely. And just under 2 more minutes of the race remain, plus the regulation lap. So the one retirement, Anthony Gerardo, Gabriele Torelli, after his drive-through, is up into 21st place. But he's going to be much tougher now to gain further places before the very end. He would need a safety car, or would have needed a safety car by now. All up the curb goes Schimpf as he throws it into the chicane. Might have anticipated Julien Bazire with his rally experience to be really good in these conditions, but he's fallen back in the queue, as you can see. And constantly improving his lap time is the slick-shod Knudsen, but even so, he's still about 12 seconds away from the absolute pace. That's the super slow-mo replay of the very brave Alejandro Schimpf hurling the car into the Hans-Ernst Bocht. And Quinto Stefano, after his gravelly moment on that lap, riding shotgun behind him. So Pouget up front, and he's making this look easy. He's on his penultimate lap, because the clock will hit 0 on this lap, and with a lap time at over 2 minutes, therefore the last lap board will await. Nicolas Milon, though, is a little bit nearer, and with half a second between the two now, is Nicolas Milon building up for one last gasp at the race lead? Let's see, because the cars come through with the road there drying a little bit. This part of the circuit seems to dry better than the start and finish area, and you can see that Pouget is trying hard because the car is all up the curb, and again it dances into turn 9 here. Milon chases after him. So in the first sector of the lap, 2/10 quicker was Nicolas Milon. They're heading towards the end of the middle sector, but to the eye, Milon is almost close enough to think about getting a tow past the pits and then making a move at Tarzan. He's edging closer as they come towards the exit now of turn 9. heading to the end of sector 2. Will break the timing beam there. So Milan, who had closed a little bit over the last couple of laps, heads down towards the braking zone into the Hans Ernst Bocht, with third and fourth getting closer as well. Thomas Picar falling back into the clutches of Martin Kuhl. So that gap's come down markedly all of a sudden. Adrian Schimpf is still fifth. Sixth is Jerzy Spinkovic. And he's got Guillaume Mayo up behind him. There are the race leaders. In sector 2, Pouget pulled back the 0.2 of a second that he'd lost in sector 1. So maybe Milan is not going to be able to do it after all, because he's not close enough now to attack as they come over the line. The clock is going to be against him. And look, Pouget's really good coming off that banking, and he builds the gap once again as they head over the line now. So one more lap to go. David Pouget goes through. Milan chases after him, and they're heading into the braking zone now for Tarzan. So there is Martin Kuhl, who is much closer, like 1 second away now from Thomas Picar, rather than nearly 2 as he was earlier. But again, he's just going to run out of time. We've lost Damiano Puccetti into the pit lane as well, as there is Kuhl and Super Mario, heading for a colourful 4th place. And second within the Mid-Europe contest as well. Sorry, the Europe contest for Martin Kuhl. He scores points in that. So Pouget and Milan clear up front. There they are. Traffic up the road ahead. David Pouget has driven a very, very good race here. He let them all battle ahead of him on the early laps and then picked his way through. And some good hard racing as ever in Clio Cup Series, but without the silly driving standards that some one-make championships seem to have as part of the course. And yes, there was contact between the race leaders, but it wasn't malicious. It was just one of those things on a wet road. But David Pouget and Nicolas Milan, to be fair, using all of their experience of Renault Clio racing, knowing when to hold and when to fold, when to attack, when not. And David Pouget, having hit the front, controlling the pace, and this will make amends for yesterday's retirement when he just brushed the back of Torelli's car at Tarzan when he was trying to get the undercut to go for the lead, did a tyre, had a puncture and retired. He's already Clio Cup Series champion and a race win without the pressure then of having to score points and just enjoying his racing. That's going to be a really welcome result. Milan is closing once again, but I don't think he's got enough pit straight in order to dive out of the draft at the last moment. He might prove us wrong. Here they come. 2 corners to go. 1 corner to go. Now the Arie Dyke box, the cars tilt on the banking. They tip up the other side as the road flattens and up towards the checkered flag. And David Pouget is going to have an 8th win of the year. David Pouget wins at Zandvoort. Nicolas Milan comes through for 2nd place. And Thomas Picar is going to be 3rd and the winner of the Mid-Europe contest. 4th, Martin Kuhl, ahead of Adrian Schimpf. He will be 5th. 6th is going to be Jerzy Spinkovic, ahead of Guillaume Mayo. And this little battle lower down the order is Alejandro Schimpf versus Quinto Stefano. Nose to tail, they come off the banking up towards the checkered flag, but it's going to be Schimpf who stays ahead. So he will be 9th, Stefano 10th, and Gabriele Torelli up into 18th place last time, heading for the line, heading for the Mid-Europe title as well. Number 12, Gabriele Torelli, heads towards the timing line. There is the Mid-Europe champion who goes through. He finishes the race in 17th place. But Gabriele Torelli is the Clio Cup Mid-Europe champion. Anthony Gerardo out of the race, not scoring. And Torelli, despite his drive-through, he'll be frustrated about it, I'm sure, but he has done enough to claim the championship at the end of another very lively Clio Cup Series race. There's the overall race winner, David Pouget. The winning margin, 0.773 of a second. Nicolas Milan coming home in 2nd spot, and Thomas Picar in 3rd place. Quinto Stefano winning the Racers contest from Benjamin Cova and René Steenmetz. But David Pouget able to celebrate and spare a thought for Knut Erik Knudsen. He made that gamble to start on slick tyres. It did not work. He ended up as good as a lap down, but he at least kept it off the grass, kept it on the road, and did bring it to the end and got the mileage in that he so desperately needed after yesterday. So Gabriele Torelli, Mid-Europe champion, and finishing in 17th place overall. Perhaps not the way he would like to win a title, and I'm sure he didn't want that contact between him and Gerardo, but two hard racers, both going for the same bit of real estate and on a wet road. Contact was the outcome. So Pouget, Milan and Thomas Picard being waved round to the pit lane for Parc Fermé. Everybody else into the paddock, the support race paddock, which is where the Clio Cup teams are. Their weekend done, and in 2 weeks' time they'll be on track at Imola. David Pouget then, the winner of Clio Cup Series Race 2, ahead of Nicolas Milan and then Thomas Picard. Martin Kuhl, 4th from Adrian Schimpf and Jette Spinkovics. Guillaume Mayo, 7th from Jacopo Jimenez, Alejandro Schimpf and a class-winning Quinto Stefano. 17th for Gabriele Torelli, and that will do in terms of points to give him Clio Cup Mid-Europe. So 2 champions crowned this weekend. Yesterday, David Pouget crowned as Clio Cup Series champion with the super title, and the Mid-Europe champion today is Gabriel Alonso. There is still the European, the French, and the Spanish to resolve, and the Italian before the end of the season. So David Pouget arrives at the foot of the race control building as the very happy race winner. Door opens, and David Pouget will, in a moment or two, clamber out of the car and celebrate a race win. But the championship, very, very important to him, as also, I suppose, in a sense, he's putting one over Nicolas Milan. The two drivers, both very successful, both run their own teams, both French, great rivalry between the two, good respect as well, but each wanting to prove that they are the stronger. And the bespectacled David Pouget takes off helmet and hands device and balaclava, and is congratulated by Madame, and we'll go and see Nicolas Milan, who congratulates Thomas Picard. Nicolas Milan, who's had more Clio titles than has David Pouget, but these two very much the two top drivers within European Clio racing. Anthony Gerardo and Gabriele Torelli now starting to join that elite with recent championships. And David Pouget is a race winner, and Gemma Scott is standing with him to hear the thoughts of our race winner, David Pouget.
David, congratulations, 8 wins this season. That's pretty spectacular. And it's freezing and now you're soaking wet. Oh là là, il fait froid.
Oui, très froid, c'est un peu humide. Heureux après l'abandon d'hier sur un petit problème, une crevaison. Aujourd'hui, la victoire fait du bien. On revient dans le match pour le championnat. Vraiment heureux.
Félicitations. Just a quick translation for our English listeners there. Just happy for that win after yesterday's retirement, of course.
Gemma thanks. David Pouget then victorious, and the soaking came from Nicolas Milan, who probably couldn't resist, but helps to cool down David Pouget. Really hot in the cars, of course, and quite physical around this circuit where there's only really one long straight, and that's coming off turn 14 down to first corner. Super slow-mo look then at the race winner, David Pouget, the GPA Sport car, victorious, and David Pouget coping with a road that never really dried. It was always just that little bit damp and greasy throughout, and under huge concentration, of course, knowing all the time that if there's one tiny slip, Nicolas Milan was not that far behind, ready to try to strike. But David Pouget did just enough to fend him off and came through the winner. Let's look at the highlights then of race 2 of Clio Cup Series that began from the safety car start. So everybody went charging down towards turn 1 with Anthony Gerardo squeezing ahead of poleman Nicolas Milan and the Mid-Europe Championship leader Gabriele Torelli trying to go through as well. Gerardo hit the front, Torelli hit the grass. He had a big slide heading into turn 7 that he caught and only dropped 1 place. That was to Milan. He got the lead back, but then there was contact with Gerardo. It damaged Gerardo's car enough to put him out of the race. Torelli bounced off car and wall, and he got a drive-through penalty for his pace. He'd fallen down the order anyway, but he was on the attack before he served that drive-through, getting past Guillaume Mayo on the inside, going into the Hugenholz box. So with him out of the equation, it was Nicolas Milon versus David Pouget for the race lead. Milon, the man that started on pole, and Pouget, who'd started 5th. And eventually it was Pouget that went around the outside coming out of turn 2. And he was ahead when they hit the banking at the Udenholz corner. After that, Pouget was never headed, able to just edge away from the traffic as Andreas Stucki came unstuck at turn 9. Quinto Stefano had a moment as well going into Skyflach, running off the road. But he was able to soldier on to 10th place as up to the checkered flag and a race win came David Pouget. Nicolas Milon chasing him home at the end of the race, just 7/10 of a second being the margin. A distant third, though, was Thomas Picard. So the drivers now being readied for the podium. And it is the Carpec driver, Thomas Picard, another driver that runs the team, who steps forward first, and he is third on the podium. For second place, the redoubtable Nicolas Milon, whose win rate in Clios over the last decades is just huge. And the race winner, David Pouget, this year's Clio Cup Series champion already, and he is on the top step of the podium at the end of race 2 here at Zandvoort. And Madame Pouget arrives as well to say it's cold on this podium, and she is going to represent GPA Racing as the anthem is played for the race winner, David Pouget of France. Congratulations then to David Pouget as overall champion, as the race winner. And as I said before, even if Nicolas Milon could catch him on points, Pouget with more race wins would be able to take the title, as Nicky Vermeer, the event manager of Zandvoort Circuit, steps forward to hand over the trophies. First to a very happy Thomas Picard, good to have him back on the podium. Nicolas Milon will receive the trophy for second place. And Nicolas says, that's for me, thank you very much. But the race winner on the top step of the podium, David Pouget, and the team's trophy to GPA Racing, represented on the podium as well. And Madame Pouget will receive the winning team trophy. So an outstanding job. And the trophies shown for the photographs. The top 3, Thomas Picard, 3rd, Nicolas Milon 2nd, and David Pouget, race winner in Clio Cup Series Race 2 here at Zandvoort. For a race winner, David Pouget looking remarkably laid back about all of this, but there were plenty of celebrations last night with that title. So, race winners leave the podium. Congratulations to David Pouget, race winner and Clio Cup Series champion, and Gabriele Torelli can celebrate being Clio Cup Mid-Europe champion. In 2 weeks' time, they'll be back on track at Imola, and the action will continue in Clio Cup Series. From David Anderson at Zandvoort, it's goodbye.